Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me on another live show. Tonight, we're talking track and field. Athletics, the name of the game. Look, all the national trials are over. Athletes are now competing in the Continental Tour. They're going to the Diamond Leagues, a bunch of meets in preparation for Budapest. Some athletes are trying to nurse injuries, recover, all that stuff. And tonight, I want to spend some time talking about some of the things that has been happening over the last few weeks that I haven't gotten a chance to speak on, and I want to hear from you as well. But definitely, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna spend a lot of time this evening talking about the Diamond League that occurred earlier today in Monaco, and a lovely event every year. Probably pays a lot more money than we see in the Diamond League schedule, especially for the high caliber athletes. But I'm going to spend some time talking about that. But I think where I want to start tonight, and it's fitting, is that we want to talk about the great Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. I want to start with her first. As you know, I've said it many and many a time, the greatest 100-meter athlete ever, back to back at the Olympics, including a silver medal, a bronze medal, more Olympic medals than anybody over 100 meters. And to add to this illustrious career over the World Championships, all record number of 100-meter titles, including winning after giving birth, which is amazing. And so I want to start with Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. She opened up her season over 100 meters this week in what I would say, and I think everybody would agree, in a convincing 10.82 seconds. It's an excellent win for Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce because there is no doubt that with the injuries, right? So it's a late start to her season this year. They've been managing her. She had that injury when she went to, I think, the Kipyegon Classic. Had to pull out of that, if memory serves me correctly, all the way back in May. And there was a need for them to manage her. And we saw her most recently at the Jamaica National Championships, where she competed over 200 meters, running 22.2, looking very good, looking sharp. And when we saw her open up this week in Luzerne, 10.82, the start wasn't anything that we're used to from Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. It wasn't a start for her, but once she got into her running, she separated from the field, separated from Hobbs, and it was stunning, I thought, because not a lot of wind there. I think it was a point three. I have to check that again, but the wind was negligible. It was almost still right there, and I really think that they will look at that race and feel confident going into Budapest. I want to thank everybody for joining me. Yes, Borg, I really appreciate you. The greatest 100 meter. I said it all the time. There's no debate. There's nothing in my mind when you look at the career that she's had, the longevity, how fast she's running, and we get into some of that stuff. Maybe you tell me your greatest performance with Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. Thank you everybody for joining me track and field tonight, and we're gonna have a blast. And so back to that 100 meters, right? So you have to think that there was some level of trepidation with the start. It's the first 100-meter race. She hasn't been running, and so she's race rusty. So you take that into consideration, race rusty. I imagine when you come back from an injury, you wonder if your body is ready, right? You might be training, you're doing everything right, you're following doctor's orders, the physios, all that type of protocol. But then you get into a competitive environment and you don't necessarily trust your body. Even if you trust your body, your mind doesn't really connect the right way. It takes some time for an athlete who's recovering from injury to truly trust themselves. And that's for anybody who may have suffered something walking down the street, your semi-pro athletes, your regular folk like me and you. I ruptured my Achilles. It took me 12 months before I really felt like I could play football again and not think about it, even though I was healthy and doing the right thing. So there was a level of trepidation, I think, for Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce at the start, but she gets there. And so if you were to say all things being equal, if she was in fine form, if you got the kind of start that we're used to or accustomed to, certainly Not one of her greatest starts, even if she didn't were to deliver that. But if she delivered a start that would say, yeah, that's a Shelly start, that would be probably a 10-7, a mid 10-7 race. And so if you open up at this time of the year with that, you must feel confident going into the World Championships that you'll be in fine form. And I don't think they'll be worried about what will happen. So barring anything here, I think Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce is good. As long as she doesn't pick up any other injury from now on, maybe a couple more races, fine tune herself, I think she would be good. So it's about building confidence from here, if I were to put it in that perspective. And then when you couple that with her vast experience, no woman has done what she's done in terms of being around, running consistently fast that long, knowing what it's like to run sub 10 sevens all the time. So I think that sets her up. And I'm going to say it because I like to go on record early. I've been wrong from time to time. But here's what I'm going to say. I think that based on what I've seen just this past week, how she ran beautifully well at the Jamaica National Championships behind Shericka Jackson, I think Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce will get a medal at the World Championships. I don't know exactly what color the medal might be. Right now, it's still a little bit too early for me to stick my neck out on this. But I think I've seen enough to say that she'll be on the medal podium. And I've said this before, I had a video earlier this year. The beauty and the brilliance about this woman is, can you beat her? Yes, I've said it. It's possible to beat her. Can you take her off a medal podium? That's another thing. And I don't think you can take her off the medal podium. I think, given her state of mind, I think she will be in the right shape. Right. Yes, Borg, thanks for letting me know here. Yeah, you think Shericka would be? I think so too. I mean, if I had to stick my neck out of it right now, I would definitely say that I would give the gold medal to Shericka Jackson. I think she'll do the double. I'm not 100% sure yet, obviously, but we'll see, right? She worked on her start earlier this year and she looked good, and there's a lot more to come. And at least in the MVP camp, they're really prepare athletes to be at their best come the major championships. So I think Shelly will get on the table, medal podium. I don't know what the color yet will be, but we'll talk about that in a second. So I think you don't beat her off the table. And so that's also one of my markers, because I had this video earlier on this year where I was saying to myself, when is it time for an athlete of her caliber to call it quits? And because sometimes there's this narrative in the sport, or in sport in general, that where you say you don't want your rivals to beat you, people who when you were in your prime they couldn't beat you. And at this moment she's golden still, right? They're outside of 2011 and then outside of the times outside of 21, when we say maybe she was fairly beaten, there's nothing she was going into that championships with to complain about. Every other time we can say something went wrong, where she was injured. She had a toe injury, I think, in 2016. And so it's hard to get her off the table. And I don't think it's going to happen in this year. And so as long as she's healthy, as long as she can continue to do well, I think she'll be fine. So I was happy to see her here. But if we're going to talk about athletes beating her or potentially beating her, then we have to look at some of the top athletes this year and go there. So thank you for joining me again. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. On this channel, I do a number of things about sports. I like to come live a lot now, just to have that community with you guys. But I also do sports explainers. You should check out my sports explainer playlist. We spend a lot of time thinking about different things that we can offer a perspective on. We do shorts. We do everything on this channel here, and we cover a variety of sport. And so I thank you for joining me. And so, so if I think Fraser-Pryce has done enough for my liking to be on the podium, and then obviously what will happen from now on until we get to the World Championships in Budapest, then, closer to that time, I'll definitely tell you where my top three is. But obviously, if you ask me right now and I had to stick my neck out, I would definitely say Shericka Jackson would take the title. But we have to think about the other women who are really running well this season. You know, Jackson for sure, but most notably, we have Sha'Carri Richardson. Very good this year, a different Sha'Carri. We must admit, there's nothing we can say. Her demeanor is different, her approach is different. She seems very focused this year, and it's good to see. I mean, I know some people don't like her bravado, her style. It is what it is. She transcends the sport. And a lot of times when people transcend the sport, you want them to transcend the sport when they have a host of accomplishments behind their name. And she doesn't have that yet, but she could very well get to that point. Talent is not an issue. We know she's very talented from her time at LSU. And so finally this year, she seemed different as in terms of her preparation, her mental preparation. Physically, she looks good. I think, what is it? She's run 10.7s 4 times for this year. And so Sha'Carri is in good shape. You know, I think she has the second fastest time for the year behind Shericka Jackson at 10.71 and consistently running well, which is a good sign that she's in good shape. I mean, she ran some good 200 meters as well. She's had the better of Shericka Jackson a couple of times, and we can talk about whether there's strategy behind that or not. But she's running with the big girls and she's doing well there. And so we have to credit the evolution, if you want to call it, or the maturity. And now she's going into the World Championships at this moment as one of the favorites for a medal over 100 meters and possibly over 200 meters, but we can talk about that differently. But certainly over 100 meters, you would anticipate that she would be doing good. Hey, how are you doing? You're joining me from Brooklyn. It's good to see you, Namdi. Thanks for joining me. It's a long time. I appreciate everybody on the channel tonight. It's a good day for track and field. There's a lot of things to talk about, and I just wanted to, we get into the Diamond League in a little bit, but I was, spending a little bit of time talking about my thoughts on Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce coming back and what that means for the remainder of the season. I mean, we have another Diamond League on, when is it, on Sunday? There's a Diamond League in 2 days. There's a Diamond League, I think, in London or in England, one of those places. And so, yeah, appreciate everybody on the channel, and thanks for liking and subscribing. So back to Sha'Carri, just to wrap up on Sha'Carri. I think she's in good form, looking good. The only questions that we can have about Sha'Carri at this stage, and it's the same questions we would put to people who haven't run at a major championship, is how would you handle that stage? Because it's different from running a national championships, even though the United States National Championships is extremely competitive and one of the biggest things on the planet. And so you have to think about how you manage the rounds, right? How efficient you are. She's been running extremely fast all season, so maybe she's consistent around 10.7s. You might have to run faster than that, in my opinion, to win on a good night in Budapest. And so we'll have to see. How are you doing, Imran? I know what you're here for. I'm gonna have a cricket live for you come tomorrow, I think, or maybe tonight if we have time, but definitely tomorrow. And yeah, and so I think running the rounds would be something that, how she manages that. But I think she's quick enough to get to each point of the round without exerting a lot of energy. And so if she can manage that, then I think she'd be good. The pressure of the World Championships is something else. And when the big girls come out, it's different, right? And so when I'm talking about the big girls, we're definitely talking about, in this case, this time coming around, Shericka Jackson. Then we're talking about the likes of Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, which I hope will be in good shape by the time she lands there. Marie-Josée Tallou. Marie-Josée Tallou is fantastic. She's on a new... She's just... I mean, I love that woman in terms of her ability to always bring it at the right time. And she's, at 10.75, a couple of 10.7s, I think, this year as well. Third fastest woman this year. And so I think she'll be in the mix. I also think that Julien Alfred will be in the mix. She she won that 100 meters earlier this week against Sha'Carri, who presumably was very tired, I imagine, after just running in the Diamond League prior beating Shericka Jackson. And so I think Alfred is in the mix. Alfred is coming back from a break after the NCAA championships, a long season. And so we often think about what the collegiate athletes can bring. And it's often tough for them to sustain this level of preparation. To sustain their peak levels come World Championships. But this time they got a break, and there's even more breaks leading up. And so for those athletes, and I think Alfred is one, Adelike is another, a bunch of these athletes from these major programs, their coaches were preparing them to get to a point of that they will come back around and peak closer to the World Championships. So I think Julien Alfred will be in the mix, and she's looking really well. And I think she'll be a force. And speaking of Alfred, we can kind of connect together in a second, but I want to thank everybody again for joining me. And yeah, I see you've been watching cricket there, Imran. Appreciate you coming on. I didn't watch that cricket, but I spent a lot of time today watching the West Indies and some Ashes. So I'm looking forward to talking about that as probably tomorrow. I think Boyd said something about 10-7 may not eat. I think you're right. I mean, it depends on the conditions for sure. I definitely think you want to be in a 10-6 range to be assured of a medal. I certainly think that if Shelly gets it right, she'll get back to 10-6. I think if we're being honest with ourselves, if Shericka Jackson gets it perfectly right, she's gonna go sub 10-6. She might run 10-5. I can see it, and you look at her body right now, and Shericka isn't ready yet. You could see that there's gonna be a little bit, she's gonna come into the championships a little bit leaner when everything is flying, and it's gonna be something where they're gonna try and knock off that 1-2 double, and we'll see. I think this is her year, but they have to run the races, and 10-7-1 may not be good enough. And how ridiculous will that be if you can't get a medal by running 10-7-1? But we'll see. Depends on conditions as well. Yeah, so since we're on sprints, we talk a little bit about Alfred, and we just talk about the great Shericka Jackson as well. Let's talk about her performance today over 200 meters at the Monaco Diamond League. What a lovely run. So today she runs 21.86, and we could put up the results in a second. And easily, I would say, very comfortably winning that 200 meters. In so much so her eyes were looking, she was a little bit perplexed, I think. I don't know what the right, it seems as if she was shocked that she was by herself. Because if many of you watched the press conference the day before, she was sitting beside Gabby Thomas, who was also talking about her Jamaican roots. She was also talking about this kind of rivalry. And if you guys remember at the American Championships, while that was happening, Shericka had gone in the Jamaican Championships and took the world lead. And Gabby said to herself, they just can't allow us to have anything. And she came back and did a 21.6, which is still the world lead this year. And so the question, rightly so, from the journalists asking both Thomas and Jackson was, are we going to get fireworks? Are we going to get a new world lead? And Jackson herself was saying, well, based on where they are in training, there's no expectation that a 21.6 would be on the cards, which I fundamentally believe. I suspect she might be very leggy, the kind of heavy load that they're doing to get her back before they taper her off again for the World Championship. And so Jackson was basically by herself, and Thomas was nowhere to be found, finishing way down the track in 7:22.67. So clearly something was off. She must have felt something. I haven't looked at any press conferences, so if anybody saw what happened, if Gabby spoke out about what her performance today in Monaco, but I think she may have been injured. It has to be. There's no way you can. That's a whole second slower than where you were a couple weeks ago. So hopefully it's nothing serious, because you want to see all the athletes fit and healthy come Budapest, because that's the only way we can see top class competition if everybody was there. So Jackson was really cruising, a lovely and what I would say a fast finishing Julien Alfred there, fantastic from her for my liking as well. And I think Alfred is she's there, so if we could put up the results a little bit, then she looked good, so 22:09 I think it was, or 8, for Julian Alfred, looking good, fast finishing. I think she, as I mentioned earlier in the program, definitely in the mix in terms of trying to get on the medal podium. And what a lovely individual Alfred is, a credit to the sport. Spent all our time there in Texas, and then now is gone professional, signed a Puma contract, and I wish her nothing but the very best. A great product from the Caribbean. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that. She was she was jet lagged for all right. Yeah, I mean, so that makes perfect sense. I think that's fine. I mean, I think one of the things that we often, as spectators, we don't take a good moment to think about is what traveling does to the body. And to be honest with you, I actually don't know how they're traveling. Maybe she may not necessarily have traveled business class. You'd hope they would travel business class, but athletes don't make the kind of money that that other sports do. Track and field is a poor person's sport, if we're really being honest with ourselves. So I don't know if she did fly business class, got a flatbed coming in, and so if you don't adjust, then it becomes a tough thing. But they have to go around and do well. So hopefully it's nothing. I'm glad it's jet lag and not injury, because if that's the case, then that would be a sad situation. We're thinking about injury. We think about like Abby Steiner, who I think is shutting down her season, or talks about shutting down her season to potentially maybe nurse that foot injury that she picked up again, and that is really tough for Steiner, a big talent as well, professional as well, did well at Kentucky, but there's years when she was there that she was struggling with a level of injury that didn't allow her to perform well. And so I hope, I want athletes to be always fit and competing against each other, because it brings out the best in the sport. And so so I think today Shericka looked excellent by herself, only I think by the time we get to the World Championships, we're going to get fireworks. It would be great to see her take down that 200-meter world record, but you let me know what you think. All right. I'm going to spend a little bit of time, because I'm going to shift away. I'm going to talk about a performance. I'm going to talk about a woman that I think is having, well, everybody knows this. I'm not going to say anything new. I just say 2 words: Faith Kipyegon. A tremendous season. It's the best season right now. I don't think anybody in the sport, there's been some world records around Krauser. There's, I think Garma did some world records earlier this year too. We could bring up all of that kind of stuff, but nobody is having the kind of season that Faith Kipyegon is having. I mean, she's making me break stuff, or potentially break stuff. I have to be careful where I'm watching her, because she's doing some things right now. And so today I was messaging DJ, and I hope to have him tomorrow on. We're going to record a show as well. And I was messaging him about the performance, and I was telling him that Faith Kipyegon needs to stop this. This is just outrageous. So she breaks 3 world records this year, and I'll get to that again. But today in the mile, the woman comes out and breaks the record by 5 seconds. Who does that? 4 minutes 07. Shattering Sifan Hassan's record. I think Kipyegon is on another planet. I don't know what she's doing. And that's also another woman that's come back from having a child as well. So kudos to her. Right now, it's, yeah, I agree with you. She's a sportswoman of the year. And so you think about breaking that record today, and everybody, we can put up the results in a second. Everybody was basically running PBs, national records, all kind of stuff. But she's utterly dominant, utterly dominant. And then you put that in 1 year, she breaks all the records. So she breaks the 1500 and the 5,000 meter record within a week. And so you get a 349.11, a 1405.20, and then today she runs 407. I really don't know what we're watching. And the World Championships is still a few weeks away. And so hopefully she gets to the World Championships and performs well again, right? I mean, the woman is on another planet, you know. The woman is on another planet, and I think I just don't even know what to say. And but one thing I would say, and I maybe get some of your thoughts here, is you think about the importance of the wave light technology. I was skeptical about it. I have a video on the wave light thing, just explaining it, put it out a few months ago. And I like the wave light. At first I wasn't sure if I wanted wave light in the sport, but I do think it makes it much more visual spectacle for fans, right? You could see where, what kind of pacing is going on, and the athletes themselves can follow that, right? I think at this stage, at some point, we don't have. I think I sent a message to the wave light people and they haven't responded to me. I'm like, why are we still having pacemakers if we can just run wave light in the sport? So, but anyway, that's just me geeking out on technology and track and field. But Faith Kipyegon, fantastic performance so far, and long may it continue, because when you're having this kind of purple patch, this kind of a season, you just have to capitalize on it. And I believe that she may go and break the records again at the World Championships. But let's hope she start by winning those gold medals there first. So I think she's taking care of the records early, and let's see what happens there. You break them again there, you get a little extra money, and that's always good to see. And so I'm happy to see that. But she's good. Let me, before I move on, I want to talk a little bit about Warholm in a second. I thought let me see if I can address this. Shericka surprise, a miscalculation of her peak. I don't know if they're doing this is a miscalculation, to be honest with you. I think one of the things that, look, there's some things there that I sometimes you don't. Okay, how can I say this? Like the way the MVP guys work, the way Stephen Francis works, sometimes it's really not always straightforward what they're doing, and they'll intentionally do some stuff where they'll get you to a point to be ready for this national trials. Then maybe you go on another load, and then you might not be in the best of shape, but they're gearing you back up again to be in perfect shape for the World Championship. So I think she'll definitely be in a 21.4 or better shape come World Championships, and a 10.6. I think Shericka's probably been in a 10.6 shape since last year. It's just the execution, right? And so if she doesn't execute the first part of the race, then it's a challenge. Then you end up in a 10.7 range or something like that. And this time at the Jamaica National Trials, you saw that she got the first part of the race so immaculately well. She was right there. And, at the end, she wasn't even as perfect as you normally expect her to be, like holding that speed. And she did a couple missteps there. Maybe her drive was off a little bit, but it's the minor details there. So I suspect that if she can get out of the blocks the way she did at the trial at the Jamaica National Championships or somewhere around there, then she'll be very, very hard to beat. Hard to beat. I don't know how you're going to do it, because right now her speed endurance is, I don't think there's anybody around that is as good as her right now, in terms of form and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. We can see. And so let's talk about a guy that, here's what I'm going to say. Karsten Warholm won't be beaten this year. It's not happening. He's back. The guy's back, and he's ready to. He's not only ready to take back his world title, because in Warholm's head, he loaned the title to Alison dos Santos. He's ready to break the world record again. When I look at Warholm this year, I don't know what to say. I think he's ready, right? So how many times he's gone 46? Is it what, three times for the year he's gone 46? So sub 47 three times, 46, 51, 46, 52, and he's done 46, 76. You're not beating Warholm this year. He's outrageously good again. He's looking even better than he was in 20, was it 21? Yeah, when he ran 45. So I think Warholm is ready. I mean, Rai Benjamin ran fantastically well too. He has a 46.62. But mentally, I don't think this. I mean, no disrespect to Rai. I think he's a very talented individual and he's ready. But I think there's something different when the Viking steps on the track that he has the better of him. Rai has to run the race of his life, and he did run the race of his life a few years back, and ended up being second because this guy decides to run on the 46 seconds. And so I think Warholm is in that kind of shape again. He's definitely in a sub. Come World Championship time, I think he can run he can break the world record. And I don't believe I would have said that again, because that world record was outrageous. And then he had an injury. Now he's back. The other person in the room that I wanted to see is this to see where we are is Alison dos Santos. So dos Santos today runs his first 400-meter hurdles. He ran a 400 a couple days ago flat. He did a flat race, and now he runs. And he didn't look so good today. He runs pretty fast today. He runs 47.66, but coming home on the stretch, there was a grimace on his face. And I need to rewatch the race. Unfortunately, I haven't rewatched the race since I watched the meet live earlier today. But I don't think dos Santos will be ready in time to give Warholm the kind of challenge, or even Benjamin. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know that I didn't even realize that Santos would have made it back in time for this championship, because he was injured. The early part of the season, the word was that he would have to sit out the entire season, surgery. So it's good to see him back. I'm really happy to see him back on the track. Hopefully he's back on the track and he's not re-aggravating anything, because sometimes it's better to sit a whole season out. The Olympics is next year. You've already won the world champion. You're already world champion. Sometimes it's better to miss things, sit it out, and then come back. But it just looked rugged. His first 400-meter hurdles this year. And thank you everybody for joining me. I'm talking track and field tonight. If it's your first time on the channel, give me a like and subscribe. I have a lot of things there. Drop your comments in. I put them on the screen. I'll respond to them. Your questions, anything you want to talk about track and field. I've gone through a bunch of different things from Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce already, Sha'Carri Richardson, Shericka Jackson. But it's your show. I'm happy to talk about them again. Now we're talking about Warholm, and in my estimation, let me know in the comments, but I don't think Warholm will lose this title this year, and I definitely think Warholm will also break the world record again. And I don't even know if dos Santos will medal. This is what I'm saying. I mean, it's still early. I have to give him a lot of grace because he is the defending world champion, and I think that a healthy Alison dos Santos, for me, that form that he exhibited last season, if injuries didn't beset him this year, I definitely think he would be the guy to go close to the world record as well. And so there's a lot there, because his hurdling technique is beautiful. He has the height. It's just beautiful to watch. And let's hope that he'll be ready come August. But my money would be on Warholm. I don't think he's going to be beaten unless he picks up an injury. I think Rai will be in the mix as well. But I'm also very, very happy to see that Masters from the BVI, wonderful performance earlier this week as well. What was it, 47.26? He looks good, suffering from some injuries of late, and hopefully, he's back, because he's a guy with a lot of potential as well. CJ Allen, that guy looks really good. So there's others that can be in the mix. I'm also really excited for that Jamaican kid as well. But that just broke the world or equaled the world junior record a few weeks ago. Clark, but Rashawn Clark, but there's no expectations for him. He's just going to go to the World Championships and have fun. That should be I guess, the story that you tell him. Go figure out what it's like to go hang out in Budapest, run against some of these guys, and show them what you have. Right? Thanks everyone for joining me. And so, if you think Warholm can be beaten this year, then let me know in the comments. But I think it's a conclusion. Yeah. Yeah, I did talk about it earlier, but since you bring it up, let's talk about Shelly's race again. Look, there wasn't a start, but should we have expected her to be explosive out of the blocks? Maybe, maybe not, right? So the way I think about it was a couple of things. This is her first 100 meters. There's a knee injury that she picked up. She didn't do surgery as far as we know. I don't know if she did. Most of what she's been doing seemed like rehabilitation work. And so I suspect they had to do different types of treatment, other things to keep her in shape. When she ran that 200 meters at the Jamaica trials, you could see the endurance is there. Probably the speed was definitely there as well. So you knew that once she steps out on the track, that I don't know if she's in the shape that she was last year, but it looked pretty close to me, right? And so there wasn't a start. If she had the start that we expect a Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce to do, her average start is better than everybody else. Most people, not everybody, but most. When she gets that really good start, when she gets out low and accelerates, when she gets the transition that she usually makes, I don't think any athlete makes that transition. So if you come to me and say Brianna Williams may be a better starter, she doesn't transition to capitalize to get that speed better than Shelly. No one does it better than her. None. And so she didn't have that yesterday. So if she gets that back in time for the World Championships, then I think she runs 10.6 again. So yesterday, if she had that start, it would be 10.7 for me. It would be like mid 10.7s. And if she opens up in her first race at a 10.7, it's not quite 10.6 that she did last year when she opened up, but it's not far off. And then we take into consideration that she has that injury. So I think there's also some level of trepidation, as I was saying earlier, that if you're coming back from injury, you do not want to, in your back of your mind, in your head, it's playing on her. So I think she needs another couple races before the World Championships, just to feel it out, right? I'm sure she's probably been explosive in out of the blocks in training, and they're saying, well, you're good, and she probably knows it, but until you do it in competition, it doesn't quite work, right? And I think this maybe one more race would be good for Shelly too. But then she has more experience than everybody out there, right? Probably put together sometimes, right? I mean, that might be an exaggeration, but I definitely think she is okay. She's the kind of athlete that could show up to a World Championships and didn't run any races on the circuit, and we wouldn't worry that she couldn't get it right in time for the final. It's not quite Bolt-esque. Remember Bolt would show up and he'll get ready through the rounds. She hasn't really done that because she's usually healthy enough to be in at the World Championships or an Olympic Games in almost as good a shape as she can be. But this time she may just work her way through the rounds, and working her way through the rounds shouldn't be really hard for her. And as long as she doesn't re-injure the knee or anything else, I think she'll come to the World Championships in a 10.6 shape. And so she's gonna look good. Yeah. And then maybe I don't know if she's doing one more. I don't know if she's gonna run one more after that. But when she gets it right, I'm fine. I mean, and if she were to run a 10.9 tomorrow, I still wouldn't worry. But if she runs another 10.8 or gets close to 10.7, then I think it's it's there. If she drops 10-6, you know, if if she drops 10-6, then everybody's scared. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Shericka Jackson, you're gonna be scared. Sha'Carri, you're gonna say because then she's putting you on notice that hey, I've been injured the whole season and I'm ready. I'm right where I was last time. What do you think? Oh well, I have to see her run 10-6 to be favorite uh, in Budapest. That's probably and that's a high bar, but because I just know that Jackson's gonna run 10-6 or better. If Jackson gets it right, it's 10-5. It's gonna be 10:59. If she executes well, good conditions, if you get anything from a 1+1 to 1.5, then I'm thinking we're talking about 10-5, 5 to 10-62. I think that's where we're looking at. And so if you're not in that kind of shape, then I don't think you win. But she has to execute, right? And she has to execute the first part, and that's a tremendously hard thing. And the thing about Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, to put her back in the mix, and this is one of the reasons why she always used to. That's why she needs that start. It's not only that because the start and she's very fast. It's what the start does to a lot of these athletes that they don't want to talk about, that they never tell you in public because it's an admission of what she would do to you. So she gets out and she's gone and she screws up your head, right? So there is this thing you can't catch her now, and then you slightly not concentrating on your own race and executing the way you have because you're like, oh my God, Fraser-Pryce is in front of me and the mommy rocket is on, whatever propeller fuel is flying. I can't even come up with good analogies tonight, but she's out there, and so she definitely intimidates you. So if she gets out on you and gets that jump on you, you're not catching her, and that's usually you catch up to her, but it's there's not enough space. And so I think there's a mental thing as well. So I think if she runs 10-6 tomorrow or somewhere close to that, then that could change my mind. But as I see it right now, yeah, Jackson's still favorite for me, and that's how it works. And I never count out Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce because she definitely tries to win the races really early. Yeah. thanks for agreeing. Appreciate everybody joining me. I know there's a bunch of people on the live tonight, and thank you so much. And if it's your first time here, I encourage you to stick around. I encourage you to smash that like button and maybe hit subscribe and that notification bell, because that will tell you when I go live or when we have new videos on the platform. And we do a variety of sports on Sports Talk Tech. And yeah, I launched a new podcast the other day. I need to do a few things there, and so hopefully you might find it to your liking. And if you have burning things, if I'm saying things tonight that you don't agree with, just hit me up in that comment section. I put it up on the screen. I'm not scared. I take it. One thing I know is that I'm not always right, and I feel like we can have good conversation as long as it's clean. It gets up on the screen. If it's not clean, then it never comes up. But anyway, so. Yeah, where am I? Yeah, so that's my thoughts on it, to be honest with you, and to see if she'd be in the right shape. But Sha'Carri will be there, I think, as well. Alfred will be there, and yeah. Now you're putting me on a thing differently. What happened to Elaine? Can she come back? How much time we have? So there's injuries, clearly. They're not disclosing what the injuries are, so I don't know. Is it the same thing that happened to her for many years? I mean, if you listen to her, there's an interview doing the rounds recently where her former coach Stephen Francis, he's speaking about issues with, from a marital perspective. I don't know those details. There's some things that I've said in the past, and I always I don't want to be on the fence. Yeah, I'll get to that in a second, Barbara. I don't want to be on the fence here. I've said this before, and this is the analogy I've used, and I don't like using the analogy because I don't like to compare people with inanimate objects. But when she decided to leave Stephen Francis MVP group, you're fine to do that. Nothing is wrong with that. What you need to do when you're leaving is to make sure that the arrangements are in place so that your success can move forward. And so it struck me as odd, to put it mildly, that you would have your significant other take charge of your development. He's not Bobby Kersey. That doesn't mean he doesn't have the capabilities of being a high class coach, but there's no track record of it, right? It's like me. Took a couple coaching courses. I couldn't coach a rabbit to run in a race, right? I feel confident that they would win. So, so you don't take the Ferrari and bring it to the guy on the corner to take care of. It doesn't work like that, in my estimation. So I think that's part of the problem, if we're being honest with ourselves here, that the transition away was not done in a manner that's befitting for the level of athlete that we're talking about. So we're talking about, at that point in time, the fastest woman alive, over 100 and 200 at that time. So you don't just get, and someone who also needed to be managed because of injuries, right? So we think about the intervening years, the years between the two Olympics, nothing, right? There's some sickness, there's issues with managing the Olympics, and had the Olympics been in 20, it could have been problematic, and 21 became perfect, they're better shape, all of that. Can she come back now? Of course she can come back, but it would require, I don't want to get in trouble because, you know, my good friend Leighton Levin's gotten a lot of heat. A lot of people are getting heat. I don't care. You know, it's not like it's a big deal. But to come back means that you must admit that something went wrong. And we cannot all blame it on the injury. So you have to blame it on the team that manages the injury. All that. Every athlete gets injured. There's not a single athlete running out here or any kind of sport that's operating 100%. It doesn't work like that. They have niggles. They have things that prevent them from training the way they want. Sometimes it's elevated to a point where there's some kind of an intervention that has to occur, whether that's surgery or rest or something of the sort. But there are ways in which that you can manage a world-class athlete to be in a space where they can continue to be competitive. Clearly, this didn't happen. And so they have to acknowledge that that's not working out. And it's not easy also to have the same person that you're having a relationship with to be in charge of your program. Go ask Jackie Joyner Kersey and Bobby. It worked out, but it wasn't, they had to create these kind of boundaries. They had to figure it out. Anybody remember 96 Olympics? Bobby took her off when Jackie was doing athlete things that would further destroy her because she was injured. And he had to be the husband in that moment and not the coach, right? That's the kind of an interesting kind of relationships. Some of those hats don't always work the right way. But to come back, and I know I'm going long-winded, you have to recognize that something isn't right. And you have to fix the team, the whole team. There's only a few people that you can really trust, I imagine, to take charge of somebody of that ilk. Few. Many of them are not in Jamaica. And so I don't really know how they feel about it. It might take a fresh start somewhere else. It might take another. If you look at the landscape right now in Jamaica, there's certain places you can't end up. So you can't end up going over to where Shelly is, if you understand the story. So we're going to need some time there maybe she needs to go to LA. I really think coming to LA, it's a beautiful place. Santa Monica, hanging out in Santa Monica or some place like that would be a different kind of a way to think about it. there's time ticking on her, but you know, and we can't compare her to a Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce because she's way out there in terms of her ability to keep at that level for so long. She's like different, freak of nature in a way, So if we think about normal athletic performances and peaking, and when your body starts to get more injuries, she's getting up into that point. She has, I think, Paris World Championship after, and after that could be problematic. And so right now, I would say you have to save the career by finding a new system that can get you in the right shape. Otherwise, trouble. So that's my thoughts. All right, there's a bunch of things here. I think Barbara had something earlier here. Yeah, and I did mention Talu earlier on, to be honest with you, and on the top of the show. I think she's in the mix too, 10-7s this year as well. Talu is always in the mix. A lovely woman. She's fantastic and always prepares well for major championships. So she's one of those individuals that I think comes to the championships ready. And I think they're managing her as well because she's not particularly young either. So I think she'll be in the mix. I think obviously Jackson, Richards, Sha'Carri, Shelly, I think I've seen enough to say she'll be in the mix. Alfred, Talu Talu before Alfred, I think there as well, and there's maybe some others as well. And it's not a great season this year for Dina Asher-Smith. I think she's still struggling, but I like Dina a lot. But we'll see. So yeah. What else? I think I missed a couple comments, and thank you everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe, put your stuff there. Shelly last fall, yeah, very impressive. Black, very, very, very impressive. Very impressive. I don't think if she had even a half decent start, that would be a 10-7 yesterday. And so I think, as I was saying earlier, if you caught it or if you go back, I think there's some trepidation there. I mean, I think there's race rusty, also not fully trusting. Your mind doesn't trust your body immediately when you get back from injury. You need a few outings before you feel comfortable. But this is the greatest we have ever seen in terms of longevity, in terms of medal hauls and consistency, times close to these ridiculous times. Yeah, she doesn't have the world record, but we can talk about a world record. I keep saying that, it's a hurricane in Indianapolis down the street from me many years ago. So it's not I don't want to rehash that part, but I think she'll be fine. She'll definitely be fine. Thanks. Thanks for joining me. Greetings if it's your first time. I don't know if I've seen you on the channel before. Thank you so much. And yeah, let's go back to this question about, is the era of 9-7s for men? Oh, it might look that way. I don't know. I mean, I think Kimon had said something about we've been spoiled by the likes. Yeah, I think sometimes these things are cyclical, but oftentimes what we've seen in welcome. I appreciate you on the channel, and thank you for joining me. What we've seen with performances, though, and it's a good question that you're raising about whether we've been spoiled or whether that era, what's happening to that 9-7 era, is that oftentimes in athletic performance, you often think that the previous generation inspires the next generation and they tend to raise the bar. I am somewhat perplexed that we're not seeing a lot more 9-7s, and I need to maybe talk to some other people about this as well. The reason why I say this is these 9-7s should be happening if the athletes are preparing themselves well, but also we're in a new era of where the tracks are better. So this new Mondo level, this new track that they have is a ridiculously fast track. So the ones that they're lining up at the global championships, especially if you get I think it's I forgot which. There's 3 series of the Mondo tracks, but the biggest, the most expensive one, ridiculously fast. We see a fast track as well. The Tokyo track was fast. We saw a fast track in Oregon as usual. so the tracks are there, but the spike technology is also improved in some interesting ways. So much so that I'm a bit uncomfortable with some of the things that we're seeing with the spike technology, right? And so that should give athletes some form of an edge. Usually, sports science always improves. That doesn't necessarily mean that people who are preparing the athletes will always be updating the sports science or be on top of these things. So but you would expect when you couple all of those things together that we'll be seeing much faster times. And I don't really know what to say, like, Fred Curley hasn't been running a lot fast times. No one is running any 9.7s. What's the fastest time for the year? Is Zarnell Hughes 9.8. Maybe by the time we get to the World Championships, we'll see it. But by now, you would have anticipated one or two guys would have given us a 9.7 or so. So maybe we've been spoiled. I mean, we don't, Asafa and Bolt, different type of guys, right? In terms of what they've done. The same with Gatlin once he got back and he was super consistent. So there's a lot of talented sprinters, as you mentioned here, out there. Let's give it a year. I think my answer to this would be we have an Olympics coming up. There's a bunch of guys who are just getting into the sport in the United States. The African guys are doing well. Omanyala, Simbini came back recently, is looking okay. There's a bunch of what's these other guys that they have from Nigeria. So there's a bunch of those guys too. The guy that's from Auburn, his name is slipping me right now. And then there's a bunch of Jamaican guys that are now doing sub tens as well. So maybe in a year or two, I thought this year maybe the likes of Seville would have been dropping below a 9.8, maybe Akeem Blake as well. But clearly there's been some injury stuff as well. So I don't know. But that's something that we have to think about. Yeah. That we have to think about. Yeah, lots of more people coming on. Hi, Debbie. Thank you for joining as well. Appreciate you on the channel tonight. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's what I was mentioning to the shoes. So we should have anticipated that as well. What is this now? Those 10.7s are not really gone. There are several potential. Okay, you mean 9.7s? Yeah, I agree with you. I think what the other people are saying is that maybe you'd anticipate some more 9.7s being run by this time of the year. It's a couple weeks before the World Championships, but we'll see. Let's see what happens in Budapest. Here's the thing. You just got a medal, right? Or you got to win, right? But I submit to you that if I saw an individual like a Curly right now running a 9.7, then I would definitely slap the gold medal around his neck. What I saw from him in the 200 meters at the World Championships, not the World Championships, at the US Championships, gave me some cause for concern. I know he has a problem running that curve, so maybe that's the issue. But I actually think the 100 meters is really wide open. I don't even know where the medals will go. Is it the year that Omanyala, gets on the podium? Can he win it? Right? There's no Olympic champion. Jacobs is out. He's like an egg. He's always injured. He cracks quickly. So I wish him the very best and wish him a speedy recovery. Curly, Coleman, I thought Coleman would have been running faster by now. He's back, this is 2 years now. I thought he would be back to some super fast times. Nothing there. So there's that. There's the other guys got injured. Bromell got injured. All those guys. So Zarnell Hughes is in the mix today. Can Let's See the Toboga do something? I think a bunch of guys are on the cusp of, if you come into the World Championships in the right shape, then you probably can get a medal. You can probably go out there and do something, Yeah. Yeah. So I appreciate everybody. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I don't know if I had mispronounced your name or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining me. Yeah. Where am I? I was like going through all of these things and I got some really good feedback here. I'm trying to see if I missed any comments. Yeah, you're right. I think she can do it. I think Shelly-Ann wanted to run early. It's just that they're managing her in some interesting ways, and let's hope that she'll be in good shape. Yeah. There's some other things today that I wanted to touch on really quickly before we get off this live. And I'm trying to get my producer to help me here. Like, there's some good stuff happening today. I'll probably share a couple of these things. I thought Nia Ali today was fantastic, and I'll add it to the stream real quickly. She looked good over over 100-meter hurdles. I think she and Kendra battled it out for that 12:30, 12:31. I think it's going to be a fantastic year in terms of hurdling. Well, I don't know if you're going to beat Camacho Quinn, and we can talk about that if we need to. But that was really good, and I feel it for Nia Ali. We all know where she's coming from, and I think she'll be fantastic. But the Jamaican women too will be there. Megan Tapper, I hope, Daniel Williams, there's Nugent. So we'll see. It's an interesting year. I think that's wide open, and then it leads me to something before I get back to some more results before we get out of here. It's the news coming out about Tobi Amusan. I'm going to talk to my good colleague friend tomorrow about Tobi from Nigeria, but as many of you, if you're following the sport, you would have recognized that Tobi had she put out on her own social media platform saying that she's been provisionally suspended for whereabouts violation. And I'm really upset about this, and I've been saying this a lot. I've done a bunch of videos on whereabouts, Raven Saunders. What's that kid that I did one on that last year? His dad was a former athlete as well. He ran the 400 meters. Whereabouts violations shouldn't happen, and it really scratches my head. There's like, why? This is why when you have a whereabouts violation, it makes me wonder. I don't want to cast aspersions because she says she's clean. I don't have any reason to think she isn't. She didn't fail a test, and I think she took tests shortly after her whereabouts. But don't miss these things. Do not miss. Fill out your Adams. If you're an athlete, you know what the Adams is. I don't understand it. And you're the world record holder. You're the world champion. This shouldn't happen, Tobi. I'm very sorry. I just don't understand it. And when the AIU come for you, it's hard to get off. You have to have a really good case for why you miss these things. There's only one or two athletes get off whereabouts violations. I think, trying to remember, did Gabby get off? There's a couple athletes who got off this. I have to go check. But most of the time, you do not get off a whereabouts violation. In fact, you don't get off anything the AIU brings to you. You hardly beat them. They come with everything going. And so I'm very upset about this because Tobi's season started off a little bit shaky, but then she got into form. And so I'm anticipating a big matchup with Jasmine Camacho Quinn, the world record, and all the other principals. And then this. Can you win a case before the AIU in time for the World Championships in Budapest? I don't know. When is this hearing going to happen? I'll get all that information hopefully tomorrow. I'm going to talk to Deja about it and put it up on the channel. But this should not be happening. It should not be happening. I don't know what your thoughts are, but it's a sad day for track and field when people are missing whereabouts violation. And for those of you who don't know, I even have a video on like how to fill out the Adams on my channel. That's not even necessary for athletes to know. It's just like simple. You got to update where you are. How do you miss three whereabouts in a calendar year? I just don't understand. Yeah, Gabby had gotten off one, right? Exactly. I think Gabby's the only one I remember getting off one of these. I want to know what the explanation is because it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, right. You can do one. And to be honest with you, the reason why they come down so hard on you is because they suspect when you do these things that you're hiding. I'm not saying she's hiding something, but even if you go back to that Blessing Akabara case, when we think about the Blessing Akabara case and the Eric Lira thing, at one point she was trying to miss the test. The tests are outside, and the testers are outside, and she's like calling Lira on the phone and saying like, should I miss it? So they know athletes do this. So she's facing 2 years. If found culpable, and it's clear that you did something wrong here. You could be out of the sport for 2 years. You know what 2 years is? That means you missed the Olympics, you missed another World Championship. So it's not good. Yeah, Coleman got 2 years. I think it went down to like 18 months or 17 months. But I don't think she gets off of this unless there's some clear reasons why she missed. There's three. It's three. It doesn't make sense. But guys, I really want to thank you for joining me tonight. It's a good live. I appreciate everyone on the channel tonight. I have a bunch of videos there, and hopefully, you can check them out. If track and field isn't your sport, maybe you might like another sport. I'll be back hopefully by Sunday again to do something when there's another Diamond League. I intend to be on the channel tomorrow to discuss a little bit of cricket. And if you have no more questions, I might be signing off soon. I think one of my cameras are about to overheat on me, so just in case I go blank, it's not because I don't want to be with you guys, but yeah, I think I may have to switch my cameras. But if you have any more thoughts, questions, put them in. If you're joining me on the rebroadcast, then make sure you put your comments in the chat. I'll definitely respond to them. I want to build a community with you guys, and if it's the first time, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for saying that. And hopefully you'll be here another time and watch some of my videos and watch my Sports Explainer series and let's see. But I appreciate everybody tonight. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, because that's the greatest bell on YouTube. And okay, I'll do this one before I leave. You think Sha'Carri is going to go 10-6, 10-5? Maybe, I don't know. She's running consistently. What is it? 4 times on 10-7 this season. Running well. I think she looked good over 200 meters a couple of times. I think she's in the right shape to do that. It's just about execution. And I think they know. I think everybody knows that. I think everyone knows that you need 10-6 to win. I think that's the bare minimum to win. And so if you're not in that ballpark, 10-6 or better, you might be struggling. Who's my favorite 400-meter female? You mean ever or currently? I don't know. Ever is a tough one. Ever might be Perec, if that's the question you're asking, Marie-Josée Perec. But no, Shawnee, I think, has eclipsed her. I think Shawnee is the greatest. I don't count Marita Koch and all that kind of nonsense there. Right now, let's see. Sydney looks good. I still think Paulina can do something, but Sydney's in a class by herself right now. Bobby Kersey doesn't play when he prepares athletes. So if you're thinking about winning the World Championships, I guess she'll probably start favorites. I also think, over 400-meter hurdles, Femke Kubo will be good. For the 400 meters for men right now, I think Stephen Gardner is going to walk it. I think Gardner is back. He's going to walk it. I didn't get a chance to talk about him, but I think I actually don't know if Sydney can break the world record. That's out there. Maybe next year, but that world record is way out there. Those world records shouldn't be on the books, and that's for another discussion. But I think back to men, I think Gardner will win. I think he will win really easily. You have NASA winning, which is interesting. I think NASA is back. To be honest with you, yeah, I think Paulina might do something. I hope Paulina doesn't go and run that mixed 4x4, because that will take out too much out of her. But yeah, I think NASA will be in the mix. Paulina will be in the mix. Sydney will be in the mix. She doesn't have the experience to really run it the way she probably wants to. But what she did at the U.S. Championships, just narrowly missing Sanya Richards-Ross record, suggests that it's going to be great. It's wide open, but maybe not. It's probably not wide open. Yeah. But I think for men, I think Gardner would win. Wade Van Niekerk is back. Before I saw Gardner open up recently, I was saying Wade would be the man to beat, because Van Niekerk looks like the guy he was some years ago, and it's good to see, because injuries can really destroy a career, and so he looks like he's back, and it would be a battle. So hopefully we'll see it. I'm also surprised to see Rashim McDonald running second fastest time of the year as well. So we'll see. He's not even on the flat 400 team, I think, for Jamaica. So we'll see. That would be great to see. That I think it can happen. But we have to wait. Let's see what she does tomorrow in Madrid, I think. And but I think she can get back to 10-6 for sure. And we'll see what happens. This has been a good live, guys. I appreciate everyone tonight, and I'll be back tomorrow. I think I might be back tomorrow to talk a little West Indies cricket, and then I will probably do a lot of track and field live. And in the meantime, don't forget to watch everything on the channel. Appreciate everybody. Stay safe out there, and see you next time. Thanks for joining. Bye bye.